Hello, everyone. It's Wedding Wednes- Wednesday webinar. I should be able to remember that by now, but I am glad that you are here. I am so excited. I love Joanne Moore. And let me just tell you, for so many reasons, she's the wise woman. And she is always willing, whenever I ask her, to share her wisdom and experience with others. So I'm trying to let people in and talk at the same time. Joanne has been planning weddings for over 35 years, and she has a long list of luxury and celebrity clients. In addition to being a master wedding planner, she is also a certified green wedding planner. She is also a certified climate reality leader and an author. And I've already told you how much I love and appreciate her. She's just an amazing person that willingly shares what she's learned through her experiences and from her wise husband, Charlie. So she's going to talk about him today, probably. Knowing Joanne, she will. But I am going to be quiet and mute myself like I want you all to mute yourself. But leave your cameras on if you're okay with that, because Joanne really would like to see your faces, and she's going to say some things that might surprise you, and she wants to really see your reaction. So I am going to be quiet and I'm going to turn it over to Joanne.
Well, hello, family of ABC. I'm so excited to do this. And thank you, Shelby, for inviting me to speak with all of you because I've got a doozy for you today. And this just happened. So, as I said earlier, I am a luxury wedding planner. So I deal with very high end and celebrities, politicians, um, pro athletes. I've dealt with all of them. And then the everyday lovely couple that just brings joy to my world. I am married to a fire chief, and I'm going to put that out there right now. He just retired after 45 years. And the lessons that I've learned from him are great. And that's not what this talk is about today, but today I'm going to teach you how to my number one. I thought I had it all figured out, and then I had another event that just happened, and I had to kind of rethink things, how to deal with some of the chaotic things that go on that bring on all this stress from our clients. And that stress makes our job so difficult. So we have to find ways to settle it down. And I see, hey, Charlie, would you get this? Nori's trying to call me, and I'm on the call right now. Thank you. Um, but with that, let me go back and preference a conversation that I taught back in, I think it was 2014. Is that not dating me? 2014 at conference where I was talking about the worst bride that I ever had, the worst of clients I've ever had until recently, where I had Bridezilla, Groomula, Momster, and Father and Stein all in one family. Geez, oh, Pete, I was struggling to get through. It was so awful and bad. I won't go through the whole story again, but my associate Mindy, yes, Mindy still works with me all these years later. My associate Mindy, we found her passed out in a parking structure, and it was because of stress. Rushing her to the emergency room. The doctor said, "What is it you guys do that brought on this much stress?" And I said, "Well, golly gee, we're wedding planners." And he just shook his head and he goes, "It's crazy." And then at the reception of this horrible family, we got through. We're up on top of a mountain in a cabin, a beautiful venue, and they were so mean and awful to me and my team that I ended up outside of this venue with bears playing in the trees to my left and a cliff to my right and nowhere else to go but back inside. And I actually felt safer standing outside of that venue at that moment than going back in and dealing with this horrific family. And I won't even go into what happened. They were just monsters, just awful people. So with that, I want to preference by saying I'm better now. I've implemented a lot of things and understanding that the interview goes both ways. Have I turned down clients just from the interview? You bet. So when they're interviewing me, I am interviewing them. And I check references and I Google now, and that saved me a lot. One of the mother of the brides I was interviewed with, and I was prepared to take it. And then she said something that just like, ooh. She said, "Oh, I was going to work with Emily over in Breckenridge, but," and then on and on and on. And I know Emily. So I called her. I said, "Emily, tell me about this client that you almost took. What's up?" She goes, "Run, run for your life." And then she told me what happened to her. And then I started Googling this woman. And yes, not a good fit. And all I did was email this mom and said, "I don't think we're a good fit at this time, but best a good fit, but best wishes for a wonderful event." So understanding that the interview goes both ways, I don't have to explain myself. I just have to protect myself. And that's a little star note for you. You don't have to explain yourself if something doesn't feel right. You have to protect yourself at all times. But having said that, I'm going to do a little bit of a PowerPoint if you guys are okay with that. I'm going to share the screen with and see if this comes up. Okay. Okay. Share. There we go. Can we see that? Shelby, do you see that, darling?
Yes, we see it.
Okay. Okay. So calm versus chaos. And this is what I got through. What's wrong? Okay, there we go. Oh, it's on. Okay, here we go. All right. See, I've got my tech guy right here. He's retired, but not for me. But anyways, calm versus chaos is this. And I came up with this after dealing with another challenging event that I just recently had. So going back to the 8+ psychology classes I've had in my career to try and understand what the heck is going on in the minds of some of these crazy families. I can't fix them, but I need to understand them. That's always the way I've been. So having said that, understanding that stress, it's normal. We all have it. We all deal with it. We feel it makes us feel threatened and upset, and we're not quite right. And so we react. And and there's different elements. And again, I presented this part way back in 2014. So this is a review for some of you. But elements that increase our levels of stress. And see if you don't see this in the couples that we deal with. Family dynamics and dysfunctions. Let me say that one again. Family dynamics and dysfunctions will cause stress. And so they're bringing that into our lives as well. Spending a lot of money, high and sometimes unrealistic expectations. Now, those three there I call the Bermuda Triangle. So the dysfunctions, the spending money, and let's throw in the high expectations, and boom, we've got the Bermuda Triangle. Wanting to impress others, their family, and friends, and sometimes outdoing other weddings that they just went to. So they've got to throw more money into the situation and cause more chaos and changes. And also just the elevated excitement. I understand that. And I'm not saying all couples deal with things in a bad way, but when you have that one, it can make or break how you do things and how you feel about it. How you feel about your career, because I've thought about jumping out of numerous times. And then there is the cognitive symptoms of stress with our clients. There's memory problems. You never said that. Yeah, I said it about 4 times. No, you never said that. Inability to concentrate. They're butterflies. They're all over the place. Poor judgment. Yeah, they make horrible decisions. $9,000 of alcohol for 120 people. Seriously? Bad idea. Seeing only the negative. Some of them do that. They only understand, they think I'm trying to control whatever or something, but they're only seeing the negative out of the things that we say sometimes. Anxious, erasing thoughts. Do you ever get them where they can't complete a sentence before they jump on the next thing? And constantly worrying. Oh, woe is me. So those are the cognitive symptoms. And then we have the emotional symptoms. The moodiness, short temper, they're irritable. Feeling overwhelmed. Oh my gosh, that's when they get mom involved, when they start to feel overwhelmed. Sometimes they feel lonely and isolated. You didn't call me last week. Well, your wedding's next year. I don't have to call you every week. And depression and general unhappiness. Stress is overwhelming, not just for the clients, but they can reflect the stress on us as well. So be cognitive of that. So what do? I came up with this for me. This helps me. I bleep them. And that means to me that I breathe. I have to step back and breathe when they're forcing all this crazy on me. I really have to listen to what they're saying with the way they're saying it. They're not always articulating right, but what's the message they're really trying to get to me? get me to hear from them. So I have to listen. I don't just acknowledge what they're saying, I express acknowledgement. And what that means that oh, I get it. You want me to do this instead of this. Is that what you're saying? And then I always like, oh, great idea. Love it. Let's do it that way. Make them think that they really helped contribute to changing something. I always exceed expectations on every event that I do. Simple things, bathroom baskets in every bathroom that we do, where there's tampons and Band-Aids and bobby pins and hairspray and all kinds of things that they ask me for all night long, little hair ties, all of that. I put, I'm a certified green planner and I go to vintage stores a lot and I buy antique handkerchiefs and I clean and starch them and I put them on the mom and the grandmother's chair at the ceremony, and it says for tears of joy, those pretty little things sitting there. Exceeding their expectations gives them less cause to stress out. They've not only got me, she's not only got me, but she's got me at a higher level. And then P, provide a solution. Never do I bring a problem to my clients unless I already have a solution in mind. They may say, no, I don't want that. And we come up with a solution, but I always at least have one in my pocket before I go and say, oh my gosh, something just happened. So also when you're dealing with your clients, you want to understand the difference between aggressive conversation and assertive conversation. Aggressive conversation is bad, very bad. They are blaming you, they're snapping at you, they're insulting you, it's not fun and it's challenging. You end up being on the defensive and instead of trying to resolve the problem, you are trying to protect yourself because that's what people do when they're being attacked, right? And assertive language is more suggestive. Joanne, I really need this to happen. Okay, let's do it. Let's do it that way if that's what you're happy with. So they're trying to get a point across to you, not in a negative way, but they're really forceful. I want to do this. Let's change the timeline back this way. Can do that. I get it. But the aggressiveness, we got to learn how to bring that down. And I'm going to give you a couple things here. And then as I was telling you that the wedding that I did where Mindy ended up in the hospital and I'm standing on top of a mountain with bears on a cliff and I'm crying like a 2-year-old. I went to an attorney. My husband found a really brilliant small business attorney for me. And we took my contract and he looked at it and goes, Joanne, this is a great contract for your client. It has nothing to do with you and protecting you. So the bad behaving bride on that one that I just described, her name was Sandra. So I nicknamed this my Sandra Claus. And with this, and please get your phones out. I really want you, if you don't have a clause in your contract, please take a photo of this and do something with this as well for you. And first of all, who's the one contact that I'm going to work with? Not mom, not the brother, not the dad. Who's the one contact that, and it's usually the bride, that if something goes wrong, something needs to change, this is the person that makes the final decision. When orders are being barked by the mother of the bride and the bride doesn't even know it, and the mom didn't sign my contract, the bride did. The bride's paying me. I don't care where the money's coming from. I care who's that one contact. That's the person that makes the decision. When you get all these other players, the sister, the best friend that's calling and demanding things. No, 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 I can't. I cannot because I have a signed contract. 9.2, this is important. This is how we tone it down. We demand that all of our clients be respectful, reasoned, and civil. And then in there is, and I have the right to cancel working with you if this continues. If I give them a
I
warning, they
don't
keep
know.
going.
I don't know what's going on, but it's a bunch of people that just came in here.
Okay. Do you want me to slow down? I heard somebody talking. Okay. So 9.2 is they have to be respectful to me. And I can tell you, since I've implemented this many, many years ago, I have fired 3 sets of clients and added a $1,500 PETA fee to a groom who got mouthy before I even signed the contract. I added a PETA fee, pain in the ass. Can I say ass? Pain in the ass. Um, And he paid it and he shut up and he stopped barking orders at me and he stopped being rude. And my husband actually heard the call and he's like, let me talk to him. And I said, no, 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 let me do this. This will be good. And then also, please state your business hours. When will you be there? When they can call you or expect to call you. I recommend that they make appointments. And because I have a family and I have a husband and I have a life beyond my career, but setting business hours and then, but otherwise appointments. And I had one couple that said, we're coming up to Vail on Sunday. We'd like to meet with you. And I said, I'm not available Sunday. It's Mother's Day. And they said, well, that's okay with us. And I said, no, 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 I'm not available. It's Mother's Day. It's not okay with my family. So again, the tunnel vision from our clients sometimes is harsh. And sometimes they don't see that I have a life outside of dealing with them. So make sure that you have all these things in your contract, as well as how you're going to get paid and when you're going to get paid. I believe it was a couple of years ago, someone called me and says, Joanne, I can't get them to pay me. And I asked, do you have a payment schedule? And she said, yes. And I said, then stop communicating with them and just email them once and say, you're behind on your payment per my contract. I can't work with you till you catch up with your payments. Because how many times have I heard where people were left without getting paid their final payment? And I had this happen with that horrible wedding I described, where the father of the groom was paying for the wedding and he refused to pay anybody their final payment. He says, no, 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 I talked to everyone. And I said, no, sir, I spoke to everyone. No one's showing up unless they get their final payment. Now, having said that, I have to be very careful when I am collecting payment for my vendors because I become an agent for my vendors and not necessarily for my client, who was the father of the groom. So after I collected payment for all my vendors, because they weren't going to show up unless they got it, and called them and said, get to meet me in front of the bank before 5 o'clock so you can deposit this and make sure it's good. But we should never have to worry about that. We have this in our contract and remind them, hey, it's, we're past 30 days. I'm going to have to implement a late fee unless I have it. So put that in. And again, as I said during COVID, I require 50% down. And why I do that is because most of my work is on the front end. I am planning their wedding, getting their vendors in order, coming up with ideas and color schemes and all of that, doing a walkthrough early on. And then we're just tightening up the timeline as we get closer and closer. So I do break mine down into 3 payments. The first one is a big chunk, and I was grateful I had that during COVID, got me through. And then before I get to questions, I'm going to stop sharing here. And I want to tell you something that just happened. Kind of come up here. I think I'll come up. Will I come up? What did I do? Okay, just leave it there. There's somebody. But something that just happened. Meet Charlie. This is my awesome husband.
Hi.
And that's all right. I'll just put me here. So February, hard for me to get through this one. I had a wedding in Vail, Colorado. It's ski season, which would be nice right now when it's 110 in Las Vegas currently. And she was fine. The bride was fine heading up to the wedding. And then the mother got involved. And understanding their dynamics, the mother of the bride is a general of the family, literally a general of the family, where dad is a retired military officer, ranked high up. Her 2 brothers were military officers. The sister married a military officer, and the bride, she's married a wonderful man who works in a flour mill. And they, it was fine till mom got involved, and mom gives me a call out of the blue and starts asking questions and then becomes aggressive on the phone and wants this and that and the other. And I try to explain why things were a certain way. Well, she wants the DJ in a certain place, and there's only one outlet there, and he requires 2 separate outlets, and he's going to be blowing the fuses. And her response was, I don't care. And the bride wants to be a place which is literally 20 feet from her guest, so there's no interaction with the photographer. And she says that's what she wants, give it to her. So of course I have to approve it with the bride, and she says, yes, that's what I want. I wasn't happy with it, but I went with it. As the event got closer, let's fast forward to the rehearsal at the chapel. I have nothing to do with the rehearsal dinner other than I remember years ago I told you about separating your rehearsal dinner from your full package because it's a different client. So that's the groom's parents. They didn't want to hire me. I talked to them for an hour and I'm done. But the rehearsal's in the beautiful historical Vale Interfaith Chapel. An interfaith chapel means we have 5 or 6 different congregations that pay for the chapel and work together there. And we hired Pastor Tim. He's a wonderful pastor. Show up for the rehearsal, Pastor Tim's a no-show. And I'm calling him. I can't get a hold of him. That's unlike him. So I go ahead and run the rehearsal. Everything worked out great. I know Pastor Tim's going to insert here and here, but here's how we walk in. Here's where we line up. Did the whole rehearsal. We're all good at that. We've all done hundreds of them. Then the next day, I show up at the reception site waiting for them to unlock it so I can unload my car, start setting up, and then head over to the chapel. And there's a girl outside the building, and she's pulling on the doors, which are locked. No one's there yet. And I said, "Can I help you?" And she says, "Yes, the parents of the bride sent me here." And I said, "And who are you?" She says, "Oh, I'm a friend of the family's. I'm here to monitor, to supervise the wedding planner." I was shocked. I've never had a supervisor. I'm the supervisor. So I said, "Well, I'm the wedding planner and you're not allowed in here because it's a hazard until we set everything up. But thanks for coming. See you later." So then she shows up at the church. And she got in early, and everything that we had put up the night before, she thought it looked ugly, and she put everything away. So she's a nuisance. So I show up at the chapel and start setting it up. In the meantime, I'm calling Pastor Tim. There is still no answer from Pastor Tim. So now I'm coming up with a backup plan. So I start calling the other pastors that worship at that chapel, and no one's picking up. The church lady's not there. I have the musicians, string quartet, and the classical pianist. And the piano's locked, the keyboard is locked. And so I'm looking for the church lady to unlock that. She's already left. And so I call her back. I mean, it's just a little chaotic, but we stay calm and have solution. As I get closer, the guests start arriving an hour early to the chapel. I'm resetting up the tables. The bride has a personal note for every single guest that she didn't alphabetize, and now we're putting that down and alphabetizing and putting it in order. And we're setting up the church, big, beautiful florals. I mean, it was over the top, gorgeous, lots of candles. And I still can't find Pastor Tim, and I still don't have a backup. So I'm searching everywhere going, what am I going to do? And I know that the uncle has done a wedding. That's all I know about him. And so finally, by God's will, there is Pastor Tim. He has 2 paper towels rolled and put up his nose, and they're bleeding. And I said, "Pastor Tim, what's going on?" And he looks very pale. He says, "Joanne, I'm sorry I didn't return any of your calls. I just had a heart attack. I was in Denver." Now he's up in elevation. Bad hearts and elevation, not good. And I worked in the medical field for years, so in cardiopulmonary heart and lung, so I'm ready for anything. And he said, "But I sneezed and I got a bloody nose and it won't stop bleeding." And I look at him and he's very pale and I'm concerned. And he says, "But if I can wear this mask, I think I'll be okay. I think I can get through it." "Okay, you stay here." Got him some water, got him to sit. And I run downstairs 2 levels and talk to the bride and her family, to which I said, "Hey, Pastor Tim has a bloody nose and he's going to wear a mask." The mom leaps out of her chair and screams as I'm thinking she's going to hit me. And she says, "No, we're not mask people. Are you kidding me?" And then the bride says, "I don't want that in my photos." Not, "Oh my gosh, is Pastor Tim okay?" I got no empathy for what I'm dealing with or for what the pastor's dealing with, just themselves. The world's revolving around them. So Pastor Tim had happened to come downstairs and he heard that and he pops in with the mask on and he says, "Guys, I have a bloody nose. It's not stopping. I have to wear a mask." And the mother said, "Absolutely not. We're not allowing that. Figure it out. We're not going to have that happen for us." And he's so sweet. He's just lovely. And then they bring up the uncle or the godfather. who is ordained. And I said, ordained where? And she goes, oh, I don't know. And so I go and I know who he was, and I went and approached him, and he was ordained online, and he did one wedding for a friend. That's it. That's not allowed in the church. But we have to come up with a plan, right? So here's our solution part. So Pastor Tim and I powwowed, and I brought down the uncle. And Pastor Tim is always very organized. And in his Bible, he has page by page clipped little index cards with verbiage, their names, and everything that he is to say, highlighted the prayer that's going to be said, the reading that's going to be said, page by page. And then the uncle says, well, I've only done one other wedding. And Pastor Tim said, that's okay. I will be upstairs in the balcony, now the nosebleed section. And he said, I will, but I have to announce them, or I have to have them repeat their vows. I have to announce them as husband and wife, and I have to sign the marriage license, or I can't. Can't go forward with the wedding. We didn't tell the bride that or the mom that. And so the uncle, God bless him, said, I'll do it. I'll do whatever it takes. So we line them all up, and the music's playing, the strings, the piano. I mean, it just sounds angelical. The ceremony goes on without a hitch. In the meantime, I'm running up and down to the balcony and back, making sure Pastor Tim has not passed out, as he is getting paler by the second. And the trash can is filled with bloody tissue. More information than you need to know. I apologize. As we finish the ceremony, or we're close to the end, then all of a sudden, like God speaking, this voice comes over the intercom and says, do you, Casey, take James as your husband? It does all the announcing, the guests are going. Like, where is that coming from? It was cute. It was lovely. And people thought God was really talking. And then he pronounced them as husband and wife, kiss. We're moving everybody outside in the cold on the snow to the front stairs leading up to the chapel. And to take a group photo. While that's going on, I'm bringing Pastor Tim back. We're signing the marriage license to get him out there. He did make it to the hospital. Pastor Tim is fine. And just so you know that after all of that, he was in the hospital for hours and hours. They had to compact him. He was hemorrhaging. It was like life and death for him. I kept calling him, and finally he texts me and says, I'm okay. I'm going to get through the wedding tomorrow, and then I'm going back to Denver. He announced to me that mainly because of these people, he's going to retire at the end of wedding season from pastoring, from weddings. This one event did that to him. So, in a different context, I'm going to tell you something that my husband did, and I have a whole list of things, but I'm just going to give you one. The Davis fire, some of you may have heard about that. The same time the LA fire is going on, up northern Nevada, California area, they had the Davis fire. The winds are above 50 miles an hour, and they're not letting up. This went on for 10 days, 2 weeks, something like that, this fire. The projections were bad, were horrible. They were projecting that he's going to lose hundreds, if not thousands of homes, like the LA fire. It's bad. And my husband's ready to retire. And he's like, I don't want this to happen on my watch. He's calling in all the resources from air when they can fly because of the high winds. We had slurry bombers coming over. We had helicopters grabbing buckets from the nearby lake of water and dumping it. My son's a wildland firefighter. He's out there somewhere. All these different regions and states are sending in. The governor's calling him. What do you need, chief? What can I do for you? The senators. I mean, huge, big deal. 10 days, 2 weeks. I just see him once in a while. He comes home, sleeps for 3 hours. I refill I wash his wildland outfit, suit, whatever, uniform. And then I fill his cooler, and back out he goes hours later. He's got a press meeting at 5:30 in the morning and goes on from there. No sleep for 2 weeks. At the end of this fire, my friends, he lost a total of 14 structures, including one church. When they were talking about neighborhoods that will be gone. But his efforts, his calmness. So as he's standing in front of a board of commissioners, and they're asking questions, some get a little heated and whatever. And the one trick he does, be ready, here it is. When they ask him something hard or assertive or aggressive, he grabbed his cup of water, he stepped back, he sipped on that water. You feeling the temperature going down, my friends? He steps back up to the mic and he answered calmly. And then when this older couple came in during community or public speaking, public comments, this older couple said, yes, our house was saved. Yes, we're alive. But our fire department did not show up fast enough to our house. We lost a tree. That tree was important to us. We lost a tree. So what did he say? Nothing. Silence is a response. And the number one thing that we are all in charge of, that we control every day in our life, is our response. How we say it, the tone, the volume, or if we say nothing. If you remember that when things are on fire around you and you can stay in control, take a moment, step back, really think about how you're going to articulate your response. You don't have to blurt out an answer right away. And I was guilty of this. I was on it so fast, like, but wait. And sometimes I'd even find myself interrupting before they would say something. But watching him do that, step back, sip water. Oh my gosh, he took control of everything. And then stepping back and answer it calmly. And then when this older couple, again, they lost a tree, 14 other structures were burned to the ground. Those people weren't there. The signs all over the community, thank you, firefighters. We love you, firefighters. Children dropping off little cards that they made. Even the ballpark stadium invited us to have a evening of gratitude. We brought back all these agencies and they paraded around and people got to meet them up close and personal because they saved these communities. And yet someone had a complaint. If that doesn't put things in perspective for you, I encourage you to practice those skills. Your response is on you, and you are always in control of it. And there you have it, my friends. Any questions?
Thank you, Joanne. I only saw one question in the chat, and it was if the PIA fee is allowed in Canada. And I don't know that you can answer that.
Say again, if the what?
The PIA, the pain in the tush fee that you charge,
Well,
is
I don't
it
even know if
allowed
I'm
in
allowed
Canada?
to charge it, but for this particular one, I hadn't even signed my contract yet. And the groom jumped on left me an ugly message. And I said, now realize I can't sign the contract till next week. I have a big wedding this weekend. I'm out of contact. And he called me on a Friday night. Guess what I'm doing on a Friday night? I'm getting ready for my wedding for the weekend. And then and then Sunday when I sat down and I listened to my message, it was an awful message. Even my husband said, give me the phone. I want to call him back. No, I got this. And then I calmly emailed him and said, we need to talk about the message, not about what he wanted, but about the message that you left on my phone. And with that, I said, the only way I'm going to sign this contract is by charging you this extra. So if you think that's something you might have to do, put that in your contract. If you think that I'm a PETA fee, and I always say that only happened once that I had to do that. And that was for me to continue working with them. They were from New York. The bride met with 6 other planners. She loved me. She couldn't believe I was available. She was all over it. And to throw that on the groom and say, I'm not working with you guys. He was concerned that she would not marry him because he insulted me. So whatever it took. And I said here, and I had an addendum to the contract that said you were going to be kind and responsible for your comments to me, and there will be no more awkwardness. And he signed that and then paid me $1,500 to continue working with him. And he was a good guy after that. We were tight. Yeah, but it took some work. Yeah, I was not going to do that again.
Hey,
Yeah, any
Joanne.
questions?
Any other questions?
No, I just had a comment, Joanne. You always have some really good information. I always look forward to hearing you at conference and I love it when you and Charlie talk together. It's just so phenomenal because you just have so many great, great stories. And yes, I do have instances. I probably should have charged the pain in the tush fee. Um, for some of my clients, but I really, really enjoyed this. This was great. Thank you.
Thank you. That's wonderful. I'm glad. I hope that remembering some of this that I spoke about again, that was what, 11 years ago that I spoke about this, and it traumatized me. I was going to leave the industry. But if we have better skills that we can survive some of these crazy, and as Shelby and I were speaking before I jumped on, before you all jumped on, that it's the climate we're in right now too, that there's no boundaries anymore. They just push and they insult, and it's getting scary.
Grace.
There's what?
No grace.
No grace. My husband says no grace. Yeah. Yeah, he's my better half. You guys all know
Thanks,
Charlie.
Charlie.
Hello.
Yeah, but yes, he's I'm lucky that I've learned that skill and others. Someday, hopefully, I'll present that to you, all these amazing things that I see a fire chief go through and the heavy responsibilities. And I feel like some days I have those heavy responsibilities on my shoulders. And then learning from him and how he deals with, and his team is out there fighting the fires. And our team is out there dealing with dysfunction and crazy sometimes. So we really have to kind of hone it in and be the leader that we need to be. And that takes some skills and some training. Yeah. Good to see you. You look fabulous, by the way.
Anyone else before we let Joanne go in that 115-degree heat?
Poolside is next.
Let me just stop the recording right now.